So Dave Meltzer once again defending his stance on Kenny Omega's return to the world of pro wrestling since he was, taken out by the Young Bucks earlier on this year. It's been a couple months since that happened. Um, More than a couple. It's been quite a few months since that happened. But Meltzer seems to have this idea that Kenny Omega returning for New Japan Pro Wrestling has no impact on him when he returns for AEW. It has no impact on ratings, ticket sales, none of that. And I'm here to once again tell you, Dave, that you're wrong. But first, let's hear what Dave Meltzer again had to say about the ratings and about the way they're being booked, but more specifically about Kenny Omega and his return to New Japan Pro Wrestling. This is from Friday evening's Wrestling Observer Radio with Dave Meltzer and Garrett Gonzalez. Take a listen.
The big story is the AEW Dynamite and WWE NXT ratings, the Wednesday Night War. But I actually wanted to ask you something, since we're on the New Japan thing here. I've gotten like a lot of questions from people, just normally in my wrestling sphere of people who I talk to, kind of wondering about Kenny Omega's first appearance being on the New Japan show. And like my opinion was, look, he's got like something magical when it comes to New Japan. When I see him on New Japan TV, he kind of turns into like this special person. And I don't necessarily feel that way about how he's booked on AEW. So I was like, yeah, it's kind of cool. If you're a New Japan fan, Kenny Omega being on New Japan TV is pretty special. But at the same time, the counter was that, he's an AEW guy. Like, shouldn't his return been promoted on AEW television? It could have been a little bit of bump in ratings for them. And so I don't know if you've talked about that quite yet. But
I haven't. I guess Brian kind of brought it up. It doesn't really mean anything to me in the sense that the first time on AEW television is the first time most people are going to see it. So whatever it's going to be, that's going to be the value of it anyway. But either way, I mean, we're talking long term, and long term, it's exactly the ssame either way. Like if he's booked, what you're going to, maybe it'll be the difference between a 0.21 and a 0.22 or 0.23 or whatever. And it probably,
but let's say he does that.
But you know what? And it probably won't make any difference. And I'm not saying he won't make any difference. And whether he does or he doesn't, it's hard to say right now. I mean, because they're kind of in a certain quagmire, but whatever difference he is going to make on whatever day he comes in, it's not going to be affected one way or the other by the fact that he was at Power Struggle this week doing a promo and doing an angle with Gabe Kidd. And, I would expect that he'll be on TV, probably prior to January 5th, maybe not, but whatever, whenever he debuts in AEW, it's a different thing, and he can, get that thing going. And again, January 5th is not even a sure thing. It's subject to, his being ready. Obviously the fact that they're targeting January 5th means that, he figures he's less than 2 months from ready. But, the guy almost died. It was a really bad thing. And then he had the surgery, and then he has to get back in shape. And the other thing is that because he's Kenny Omega, he can't afford to come back at 80%. You know what I'm saying? If he comes back at 80%, it's like a negative. He's got to come back and freaking kick ass with, you know what I mean? Or else people will just go, oh, he's 41 years old. So, he's got, the problem, Terry Funky Stories talked to me about this, is that the problem when you're really, really great at this and you get older is that people can see the difference. He said, if I was smart, I'd have learned to work like the Sheik and Abdul the Butcher, because they did nothing. And when they would wrestle in their 50s, they could still do all of that.
Yeah, we saw the post neck injury Austin. He just had to absolutely change his style.
Yeah, but he was very effective. But
he was awesome still.
Yeah.
I guess, logistically it would have been impossible because I know he's in Japan. But let's just say he comes back and you promote it for a month. I mean, they easily beat NXT on Wednesday with him on that show as like a special thing. I don't know what he would have done.
You may be right. You may not. Well, I mean, I guess probably you are because of how close it was.
Yeah,
but,
it was really close.
Yeah. So you're probably right, but I didn't sense that they were doing anything to, whether it's he didn't care that much about 1 week, and that he's building his stories, or maybe he just thought that it wasn't going to be that close. I don't know the answer, because it is, again, in the big picture, it's fine, but it doesn't change anything. Well, I mean, maybe there's a perception issue. I wouldn't have, it's not good that they lost because of, they lost on their own night and everything. But it's not like Tony went out there and booked a competitive, he booked a normal show. I mean, if anything, it was star power wise, it was, it was weaker than usual. I mean, Takeshita and Fletcher versus Ricochet and Question Mark in your main event match. I mean, it's like, that's a match you booked to give people a great match. And it did. And it was. It's not a match. I mean, Ricochet and Kyle Fletcher. I mean, well, not, Ricochet is not really a main eventer. I shouldn't say that, but Kyle Fletcher and Takeshita, they're not main eventers as far as marquee guys. I mean, are they, work-wise, skill-wise, are they at the level of main eventers? Absolutely. But it takes a while, before your marketability catches up to your skill or whatever. And some people it never does.
Should Will have been promoted as coming back on that show?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
My DVR now, my Hulu DVR gives AEW an extra 4 minutes, but they went way long then.
And
yeah, it still got cut off, so I had to go on YouTube to check out.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Not that Will's a great television draw for the UK. Generally speaking, it's not infallible, but he's the biggest one. But in the United States, he's not really that great of a draw. But would he have made the difference? We'll never know. It was a close race, so we'll never know.
So a couple things there. This guy does not get his own audience. He doesn't get AEW's audience. He does not. Do you not realize, Dave, that yes, NXT, yeah, they gimmicked it up with the ECW stuff, but NXT beat, however barely, they did beat AEW in the total viewers and in the 18 to 49 demographic. Again, very slightly, very minusculely, if that's a word, but they did beat them. They beat AEW on their own night. This, that doesn't send up a red flag for you. Nothing should. And this crap of, it would have, more people are going to see the AEW stuff than the New Japan stuff. It's the same audience. It's the same audience. Those people who watch AEW. I guarantee 90% of them, and I've said this before, 90% of that AEW audience also probably watches New Japan. Also probably reads your newsletter. Also probably listens to your show. So yes, it does make a difference because to them, the bloom is off the rose. Omega's back. He's doing his first match in Japan instead of the United States. And even Garrett says something right there that is a key point to all this. Kenny Omega is more happy in Japan working in front of a Japanese audience than he is working for AEW, being an EVP. He said before he doesn't like being an EVP. I wouldn't be surprised to learn later on down the road that he's not an EVP anymore. But also the fact that he does, he likes working for Japan better. And so when he does return to AEW, it's going to be like, okay, he's back. That's why it's not going to mean much. That's why it's not going to move the ratings. Now, if they would have hyped up his return on an AEW show saying, hey, at Full Gear, Kenny Omega's coming back and he's going to make a special announcement. And you have Kenny Omega walk out at Full Gear and promote it on AEW TV, then it means more. Because, yes, he's going to wrestle. He's probably going to wrestle twice. He's going to wrestle probably Gabe Kidd one night, and then he's going to wrestle Ricochet the second night. But if you would have plugged it and promoted it and hyped it up on AEW TV, not even to pay-per-view, if you would have just said, oh, hey, okay, let's say we're at Full Gear, or it's the Wednesday before New Gear, the go-home show. You could say, join us next Wednesday for the fallout from Full Gear. Also, Kenny Omega's going to make his return, and he's going to have a special announcement regarding Wrestle whatever it's called, and Wrestle Kingdom, and the other AEW Wrestle whatever show. And then you have Kenny Omega walk out after Full Gear. You have probably about a good month and a half after that point to promote it. But no, he just randomly shows up at a New Japan show. Well, it wasn't random. They did advertise that he was coming back, but New Japan advertised it. AEW didn't even advertise that he was going to be a Power Struggle. And then for Meltzer to go, well, they're in a quagmire right now. What is that quagmire, Dave? As I've said before, you won't admit you won't say exactly to the point. You'll beat around the bush. You will not say what that quagmire is, what that problem is. Quagmire. Giggity, 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 giggity. I can't do it right. Giggity, giggity. Yeah. The quagmire is Tony Khan and his booking. So then he goes on to talk about, well, if they would have promoted, this, and, Garrett, all credit to Garrett Gonzalez, he gets it. He absolutely gets it. If they would have promoted Kenny Omega's big announcement for this episode of Dynamite that he's returning, and he's going to have a big announcement regarding the Tokyo Dome shows and New Japan, they probably would have, at least for that segment, beat NXT. I don't have a segment-by-segment breakdown of who beat who, but they might have even won the night. So to sit there and go, oh, well, Tony just didn't care and he was booking his stories and blah, 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 blah. No, Tony Khan just thought, okay, we'll smoke him. We've won him. We beat him in the past every week for a year, except for 2 weeks, I think it was, that they did not win the ratings war. No big thing. And it is a big thing. That's just it, Tony. It is a big thing. When somebody could go on your home night with an ECW nostalgia show and whip your ass ever so slightly, but they smack that ass. And don't you think that they're not sitting at the new WWE headquarters and down there in Orlando looking at those ratings and laughing? They're laughing at you. High fives all around. We got them. Yay. And if I'm all those NXT talent right now, I'm feeling pretty damn good about myself. Because the WWE's developmental company, developmental brand, just beat AEW on their own night, head to head. It's Tony Khan's booking, Dave. Why won't you come out and say it? I want everybody to forward this to Dave Meltzer. Share this on Facebook, share this on X, Twitter, whatever we're calling it nowadays, and tag Dave Meltzer in it. And because I'm just a lowly podcaster, Dave, this lowly podcaster, I'm just a poor podcaster, Dave. Well, this poor podcaster is challenging you to come out and say what the real problem with AEW is. And don't beat around the bush. Don't sit there and say, oh, well, they're in a quagmire. I want you, Dave, to come out and say Tony Khan's booking is the problem. Those words. And I guarantee you, if you come out and say those words and you say them enough and you relay them to Tony Khan, it might change. He might, on the other hand, though, he might just cut you off. Oh, big deal. You lose your access, Dave. You talk about all these other podcasters not wanting to lose their access. Well, you don't want to lose your access to Tony Khan, and you don't want to lose your status of being a BFF of his. So you won't come out and say what the real problem is at all. Anyway, folks, let me know what you guys think about this in the comments below. I recently made partner with YouTube, so you have the opportunity to send what are they, super thanks, I guess they're called. I'm not, if you want to, fine. If not, oh well. I do this for free. This doesn't cost me a dime. I do it in my spare time. You're not going to sit there and you're not going to sit there and hear me tell you, keep the lights on at the channel by giving me money. No, the lights will always stay on this channel as long as I have my recording stuff here, which is a cell phone and a Bluetooth headset. The lights will stay on. So we'll see you down the road.